Hopefully it's working. I have no idea anymore.
We'll see.
Hello.
We'll see.
Welcome to Band of Badgers. I'm Dave, your host this evening.
Hey.
And this is a special series of our Great British Brush Off because we're doing a team up with Cerberus Studios. You may remember Benjamin was here, the creator of Cerberus Studios, from our live Q&A last week. Now, if you've not yet seen it, you can always catch up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/bandofbadgers. Please do subscribe because every little bit helps. And joining us around the paint pot again is returning expert artist, Mr. ERIK FRANKHOUSE. How are you doing, ERIK?
Hey, everybody.
Good. That's good. We got a little bit, I'm not sure if it's lag or if it's me or whatever. But how are you, Ben, as well? You okay?
Very well,
okay to be
thank you.
back?
Yeah, very much looking forward to this evening, seeing what you all do.
We'll see. There's a lot going on
pressure.
in the background. Yeah, there's a lot going on in the background before we went live, but we're hoping the pressure stayed. Now, also, we're also joined by my co-host Steve. How you doing, Steve?
Not on mute, so I'm doing well.
That's good. I can't actually see anything at the moment, so I'm holding in there. Right, now, a few thank yous. Thank you to Vallejo Paints for, well, the paints. Thank you to Redgrass Games for a few little accessories and things. We got a wet palette, got some paintbrushes. Thank you so much. Thank you also to Ben. Ben has been supplying us with the minis for this kind of special mini-series, so thank you to Ben.
Pleasure.
And most of all, the most important one of all, thank you for watching. Now, it doesn't matter if you're watching us live or if you're catching up on YouTube, but thank you very much for tuning in. Now, this session is all about how we're learning how to paint Lazarus. Now, Lazarus is one of the characters, the hero characters, sort of, from the Mortals Reckoning from Cerberus Studios. Do check this out. You'll see on the, which is that side, over there, next to ERIK, there's a whole list of things down there. And that will change as we get going. It will have various pieces of artwork and minis and all kinds of stuff. But as I said, do check out the, whichever one, is going to be on the live Q&A we did with Benjamin. It's a lot of fun, but give that a go. I was going to say heroes. Can't add a hero. It is cool. He's
Yeah,
I don't know.
just to answer Baron Snowhand, he's an anti-hero.
Yeah.
So he's
So the real hero.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, nobody likes pure good guys. It's always more interesting writing the bad guys.
It is someone
Exactly.
But we're gonna. So this is what this series is about. We're gonna paint some minis, but Ben is here to tell us all about the character history, the background, the story, and how everything kind of ties together. So this is the point. This is the best point of the show because I get to stop talking. I can hand it over to someone else who also loves talking. This is Mr. ERIK FRANKHOUSE. How you doing?
I love to talk? No way.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, how are we doing? So I want to start with this. I picked this mini because, so we got a lineup that we got to pick from.
Yeah.
And my gamer tag since the original Xbox was Lazarus Returns. Has been for a long time. No, it is not from the Bible. My version's actually from Diablo when I was a kid, but really from Batman and the Lazarus Pits. And I saw the name. I was like, I don't care what it is. We're painting it. Like, I didn't even look at what the model is. I just saw the name and I was in.
It's fake.
So I'm excited just for that alone. I got a new paint mat to show off. One of my favorite YouTube content creators, the Miniac. He's awesome. I got his new paint by cutting board. And then I got my favorite paints and my hand's already covered in paint. So we're good to go. We're ready.
Good. Right. Let's jump in. So we're all gonna, as normal, if you're a fan of the brush off, it is basically we're here for the next 2 hours. We're going to be doing an hour and 45 on painting this. If we do it before that, even better. But we get to an hour and 45 and then we've got a little twist because normally Joe is here, so we're missing Joe. But what we've got here is Ben will get to judge us, not just me and Steve.
Oh boy!
But also ERIK to see who has done the best paint job.
Oh, there's more pressure on me now.
We'll see. I'm teaching, so we'll see how this goes.
Should they get some cards that rates 1 to 10?
If you want to
announcement that wasn't given before.
I would like Russian-proof Olympic scorecards, please.
Here we go.
Leave it with me.
Right.
But no, so today I'm going to do a little bit of color theory. I know, Dave, I know you do graphic design, so you have basic color theory. Steve, I know you paint a shit ton, so even if you don't think you know color theory, you probably do. Or if you do already, great. But I mix paints a lot more than do, like, unless I'm batching armies and batching like big numbers of minis, I usually mix my colors for them. I find that it makes the model more unique, a little more original, and your colors are not going to be like somebody else's. I think normally you paint the box art here, correct? Is that how you guys normally do it?
I do it. Everyone
I
else
you
does
do
off
it?
script. I try because I'm still learning.
All right.
And I stick with the pictures, but
Hey, that's fine. That's fine.
Your nice, calm, warm hands, Eric. So here we go.
So you can do the box art if you want, but this box art is pretty dark tones overall.
Yeah.
And I'm going a little different with this. I want to do green, almost ghost steel armor and like undead gray skin form to kind of have a good contrast between the two. You're going to want a black, a white on there for sure. Your choice of like a good base green. If you have multiple paints and you want to have a highlight green to go with it, look for something that's right below neon, like a more in the green tone than like a neon, almost like the border of our Zoom call right now is actually a really good example of that. I'm using Chimera paints. I'm a big fan of their stuff. Their pigment rate is super high, but honestly, first off, I'm rated R as a human being. Okay, so whatever the fuck paint you have at home, use.
If it's green.
So I'm using this because I really like their paints. They're high pigment. I grew up with a father who did car painting. And so I grew up learning about pigment rates and metallic fleck and pearlescence and clear coats and sanding and all that jazz. So I learned a lot of that. But today I want to go through some of the basics of mixing your colors. I sent a color wheel out to everybody in case you need it. I don't think we have the ability to put that on screen right now. I mean, I guess I could do a browser share in here in OBS, but really just look up any color wheel. You'll be fine. It doesn't matter which one it is. I sent a special one out the other day that lets you kind of pick your colors. It's a color calculator from Canva, but there's tons of them out there. I like this one because it talks about your complementary, your monochromatic, and it goes through the list. When I paint, I usually do a good like triadic paint tone for my armor. So I usually pick 3 tones that are next to each other. It allows you to shade your stuff. If you're used to using washes are a great way to kind of cheat after you put your base tone down to shade all your crevices in. So for the armor, a black or a green wash, or if you have both, I would mix them 2 green to 1, like for your wash on your wet palette. And we'll use that to kind of wash the armor. And then the body, we're going to wash actually in a bluish purple hue because undead flesh is really boring if you just leave it gray. You kind of want some color in it. Without that color, you just end up with a gray, drab piece of stone, and it doesn't look good.
Yep.
So think about that as you're getting through. Grab your colors. So greens, a gray, a black, a white. And whatever your white is, you want a really strong white. If you have Vallejo, their white is really good. They have, I think, 2 whites. They have like a really good base white, and then they have one for airbrushing. I would not use the airbrushing one for this. It'll be a little too thin because we're going to be mixing it.
Okay.
And then I'm going to show off my paint cup. This paint cup has been with me since I used to go to the GW store and paint there when I was unemployed for like 3 years after the recession happened. So this is Culver's. This is a cut Culver's cup. And you'll notice it has ridges.
Yeah.
It's literally like a Culver's is like a fast food restaurant in Wisconsin. It has ridges, which I love because it lets me clean my brush without damaging them. So I literally use a Culver's cup, and I've used it forever, and it's flexible. I can't hurt it. So this thing has been with me for, God, I don't know, 18 years I've had this cup now.
Oh.
I'd seen some paint.
Yeah, it's seen some paint, and it's got a nice ridge at the bottom. And then at the bottom of it, I've glued a sponge in the bottom of my cup so that when I'm wiping my brush off in the water, I'm not wiping against hard plastic. I can actually kind of pull on foam to clean off the bristles and reshape it. I did that because I got sick licking a brush doing crystal brush, and I was working with lacquer and acrylic, and I did not pay attention, and I was licking the lacquer the whole time. Got a little stomach illness with that one, so don't lick lacquer paint. So I'm gonna switch over to my my just regular cam, not me on it, but just the actual cam so you can see. So this is what we'll be painting today. I did what is known as zenith priming. I primed the whole thing in gray first. And then from about a 45 underneath, I shot it in black. And the reason I did that is it gives you some auto shadows to help you shade your model. So you can kind of see all that stuff there. Yep. And then from the top, I shot it in white. So when you're running thin paints over stuff, this kind of gives you auto shading. Like it's a little bit of cheating when you're running thinner colors. If you're slathering paint on, this won't do anything for you. But if you're not slathering paint, this is a great way to kind of see where you need to shade, where recesses are. Like under, especially in the abs, you can see here where the muscle definition is, where the high spots are, the highlights, and the low spots here are going to be your dark spots. So I did that just to show. I didn't expect everyone here to have white and black and gray primer. You can do it with an airbrush as well if you have one, but don't try to do it with a brush because it'll fall in all the crevices and you'll lose all the detail. But see, like if you look at, is that Steve's at the bottom there or is that Dave's at the bottom in our Zoom call?
So that's Steve needs to switch his camera.
I need to switch my camera.
Oh, so Dave's, you can see it's gray, but you can't see in the definition in yours at all. So that's the number one reason I kind of go with this style when I'm doing it. Paint palette. I think we all have the same paint palette, don't we? We all have grass.
Red grass.
I love their stuff. If you don't have a wet palette, if you've watched this show before, any artist that's on here probably tells you get yourself a wet palette. They're not wrong. Get yourself a wet palette.
I also have.
When you seal this lasts so long.
Steve has one as
what's
well.
That?
This is, Ben, you want to introduce it? And available on Ben's website.
That's dope. I love that art.
That is our latest texture palette. So smooth border, and then you've got the texture where the actual logo is. So you can clear lacquer them. You can prime in your choice of color, and you can use the palette literally for mixing the colors you want to use on the specific color of the model, so you know exactly what you're getting. You can practice your dry brushing on the textured areas of the logo. It's just a nice little addition to your painting repertoire.
Oh, cool. What material is that?
So it's MDF, all laser cut.
So once you clear it and seal it, you're good to go.
It's completely smooth, and the smooth areas and the actual raised areas in the logo are just perfect for that dry brushing.
Nice. So I'm doing that. Everyone always asks what gear you bring. So I have a Gears and Games for my brushes. I'm a big fan of their stuff because I was traveling a lot. They're cappable.
Ooh, I like.
So these actually cap. This is a special one. This is the Katana. Let me put this underneath it. It's actually a clear silicone tip for doing like eyes and stuff. So it doesn't ever lose its edge. It's really good for like dotting eyes, painting emblems, stuff like that. I don't know how much I'll be using that today, but if you're looking for them, Gears and Games puts these out. I'm a pretty big fan. So I would say mix yourself up a mid-tone gray. I'm going to go in and do all the skin first. Then I'm going to go back in and start doing the armor. If you want to add any color, I'm going to do gold to mine. I have some metallics off to my side. I'm going to do the metallics on this model. Some parts of his crown, I think I'm going to add it to. And then on his boot, he has some good circles on the sides. These boots remind me of the old like 80s superhero boots. They got like the big circles on the side of them. So I'm probably going to do some gold on that. And then for the spear tips and the sword tip, I'm going to do gold for those as well. Green and gold always goes well together. So I'm going to mix a gray between my black and my white, and I'm going to add a little bit of blue into it. And I'm going to do it in probably 3 stages just to give us something to play with. So we have some tones to play with as I go through.
So once you've mixed the paint, you're applying it as wet paint or you're applying it as a dry brush?
I'm going to thin it a little bit as I go along. So you'll see here, I'm going to do it below my blue here. I'm going to actually add some water to it. And I'm going to pull over pretty much an equal white and black to get my gray here to start, I believe. This black is very strong from CERBERUS, so maybe only a dot. So this is about the gray tone I'm looking for, almost like a concrete gray, right? So this is going to be my base gray. I can use this to highlight things, do what I want. I can repaint that color, whatever I want. I'm not even going to wash my brush in between. I'm just going to add some more white here. And I'm going to take a touch of blue. And then I'm going to pull this gray down into it, and I'm going to mix what I want my next tone to be.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So this is going to be a little darker because it has the blue into it. But my goal is to be able to have a couple of gray tones that I can use as I'm painting. And I don't know how much camera is going to pick this up, but you can see it. It's almost like a blue-green.
Yep.
I'm going to pull a little bit of green into this.
And this is flesh. You're going to do this as flesh.
I'm painting as flesh, like undead flesh.
Yeah.
So think of I don't know if anyone's ever seen. If you play League of Legends, Mordekaiser. If you played any Diablo, King Leoric has that kind of tone to some of his skin that's left over. Yeah. If you play 40K, you'll see it in Nurgle armies sometimes. You'll see that green, gray kind of tone. We're not going to go totally green, but we are going to be using green for his skin tone, or sorry, for his armor. So I'm going to mix some more gray here again, and we're just going to kind of pull back down through. And I am thinning it with water. I'm going to go a little bit darker for this one. And I'm going to do one light one above this. It's primarily a white. And then when you wet blend, if you get into going that far, that line that you see in between here, when you get to wet blending, it's a really good spot to pull some of that in-between color from. You can literally just pull off to the side and make yourself another tone in between. So now I've got all my colors together if needed. Who's in chat here? See a Baron Snow. Hey, Baron.
From my point,
my allergies are killing me today, so if you hear me mute and I don't unmute myself, let me know.
This is just fascinating to watch from my point of view, because obviously I love to hear what people, their own visions for colors and looks, etc. And I've seen quite a few people paint the traditional undead look. People have gone for the traditional healthy Greek Spartan tan look.
I thought about that, the Greek style.
Yeah. So this is a really nice twist. I haven't seen anyone do it like this before.
So in between this gray, I'm going to pull, you got to be, man, this black is so strong on this. I am a big fan of Boris Vallejo. I love his paint style. Back in the day, I went to Milwaukee. What was that?
Exceptional artist.
Yeah, and like, so when he did his Conans and stuff like that, he added green into the forearms and did some colors you just didn't see in typical painting. Now, granted, that's oil painting, and we can talk about oil painting. I use oils on models all the time. It's the easiest way to do wet blending for like weapons and stuff like that. So I'm a big fan. So I'm going to go through and start adding a base gray, green here, and I'm just going to start painting all the flesh. I want something a little more kind of on the dark side. And then I'm going to go right into making my green tones. And I'm going to paint all the armor. The reason that I'm doing this is because I'm going to do a wash. Since we only have a quick amount of time today, I'm going to do a wash right in between. And get into that. So I'm doing very thin coats. I mean, you'll be able to see them, but they are definitely on the thinner side of paint. Because I want that under to kind of show through a little bit. Using that as a base. There's a lot of times I love spraying ink. That's probably my favorite thing to use for base toning my models.
Was that spray?
I will spray ink. Yeah, so like there's a Liquitex. Yeah, hold on here. Okay. So Liquitex makes acrylic inks. High pigment rates. They water down really well. They spray amazing out of an airbrush gun and they dry fast as shit. So I love these. Like the white that's on here is actually an ink. It's not a primer. I love these because they're so saturated in color. For base tones underneath, you really get something that you normally can't get. Scale 75 makes a really good intensity ink set as well. Mm-hmm. Flip it over here. These are the colors. I'm probably going to use this blue and green as part of my wash today. Okay. But I love theirs. You can see the vibrancy that you get out of an ink, especially in that red cloak here, that kind of Roman Spartan kind of cloak. You normally don't get those colors out of paint without them being very matte or opaque. And this kind of inks kind of give you that that vibrancy that you're missing when you're doing your painting. So I got some questions. So what? Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I've done something slightly different. Okay, so
Sure.
I prime mine in black, but I didn't
Yep.
zenithal because I wanted to try some undercut dry brushing, which
Yeah.
I've just finished. So I don't know if that's going to focus very well, but you can see the amount of detail that's in that model just by putting a couple of layers of
that's very similar to
no.
doing like the Zenith stuff. So you can kind of see your spots on it.
Yeah.
I used to do that a lot I do that a lot for terrain, actually. Miniatures, I did that for a long time for like tabletop ready stuff for sure, because it's so fast. It's such a great way to crank stuff out. Like, if I could teach anything as a painter for miniatures, one, set yourself a time limit and just paint. And at the end of that time period, just be done. We all have a lot of plastic and metal sitting on our shelves, depending on how old you are. Older people, we have metal. And we never paint them all. They just sit around and we never finish the damn things. So set yourself a time limit and just finish the damn thing. Finish the paint and be done with it. And then put it on the table, because something with paint always looks better than something without.
Yes.
Oh, God, yes.
So if you can get that out there and just be ready to, put it on the table, because no one's holding it up to their face like this when they're looking at it. It's sitting on a tabletop. But what I was going to ask is, where did the inspiration for this model come from?
Oh, well, I've been asked that many, many times, and it all stems from my love of Greek mythology. And I have always enjoyed the myths and legends. I've enjoyed the actual history of Spartans, Roman history as well. And just the combination of all that was just firing off my imagination. And I wanted to create somebody who had a lot of depth to them as a character rather than just your traditional hero. So I created this anti-hero, this dark, troubled character his original name was Diomedes, but he was sacrificed for a god's charm. And we created Lazarus, who you're now painting now. He'll be going through a lot of trials and adventures very soon that you'll be able to read about.
Oh, nice. Comic book, novel form?
So he comes with a comic book at the moment. It's a little prequel story when you buy the miniature, just to give you a little background on how he became Lazarus.
Cool.
And how he's betrayed by his best friend, the king, the Kyrios. And then from there's going to be a novel and future comics as well that will go through the various trials he has to undergo to claim the weapons that you will be painting later, the sword and the spear and the helm.
Now, I was told you're the artist for this stuff, correct? And someone else sculpts off of your artwork. Is that correct?
So I'm the creator. I've created all these characters. They've all come out of my mind. The story's all from me. And then I work with a range of very talented individuals who help bring my creations to life. So a gentleman called...
Are they doing 3D sculpting and I worked in the video game industry for a long time. Are they doing 3D sculpting in like Maya for this stuff, or ZBrush? What are they using?
So it's a mix depending on the character. It all starts with the artist's artwork. So for Lazarus, a very talented chap called Daniel Zrom painted him for me. He used oils to paint him, and he's just got a phenomenal talent. And then
you can tell it's oil painted.
Yeah, really his skill is just beyond. It's beautiful. From there, we then go to the 3D model stage, ZBrush, and then from there we do the first cast, and then ready for approval, and then mass production.
Nice. How many models do you guys have out right now?
So
you said 3 years, 4 years you've been doing this now, right?
Yeah, so we've been going 3.5 years. We currently, for Mortals Reckoning, have 10 miniatures out at the moment, with more coming in February, in fact. And then we've got Celestial Affinity, which is my other IP, which has the massive demon Emperor Aronoth and his minion demons at the moment. But there will be werewolves, humans, and vampires coming out shortly.
Cool.
So something you can't necessarily see, Eric, is that we've got various artworks from the comic and all the artist.
I was looking at that. That's actually why I asked.
All right, yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Another one of my joys is just art, and doing this as a business has allowed me to work with some amazing talent, not just from drawing, but with painters like yourselves and so on. It's all these different mediums just help things come to life. It's a real joy, even just sitting here talking about it and watching it, because people do things in a different way. They draw in a different style. They paint in a different way. They have their own color theories. It's just great.
I love the way you said. I love the way you said that you've worked with some great artists, and you've worked with Angel, but you've ended up with me. So yeah.
Well, you did say artist, though.
I'm at the bottom of that list.
You said artist, though.
Well, yeah.
Just enjoy the accolade.
Yeah.
I'm an art director for TPK Games, which is a tabletop company, does a lot of D&D 5e stuff.
Okay.
And I used to do it for Microsoft. And I love working with artists. Hunting through ArtStation and looking for new artists to work with is some of my favorite things to do. It is joyous, but also some of the most tedious stuff I've done in my life.
Agreed. It's a labor of love looking through all the art, but then when you have to narrow it down and the difficult choices of who you want to approach or who's available and
not hurting feelings. People get really upset when you don't pick them, but you've picked them for like the last 3 projects, and you're like, listen, especially newer artists, not so much older artists have been around, they get it, but sometimes your art just isn't what I need for the project I'm working on. It's not that I don't enjoy your stuff, but it just may not be good for what I'm doing.
Yeah, each character, for example, in my range, has a different atmosphere about them. Maybe they need a different tone for just demonstrating that part of their storyline. So it all lends itself to different pieces of art. You'll see quite a few of my characters have different artists for that very reason.
All right, I'm gonna start my armor now.
So what's your armor plan?
I'm doing green.
So take us through it. Is this just similar to the skin?
So I'm gonna mix
some greens.
Yep, I'm doing my green right now. This is a very rich green. It's almost like a spruce that comes from Chimera. Yeah. I'm just watering it down a little bit because this one is a little thicker. I don't think I shook it well enough, but we'll be fine. I usually use a flow aid, but I didn't dig it out, and I know we are working on a time limit, so I usually try not to use flow aid when I'm on a time limit. Flow aid lets you. It's like using an added oil to like linseed or using oil paints where you have a lot of work time. Mm-hmm. Flow aid gives you a little bit more work time with your model in your paint you're using. So I'm going to pick some white here. I'm going to pull this over, get this base tone going. And then I'm probably going to add some yellow to this, I think, because it's a little too minty, which I'm not a fan of. Or I might add a little, I might do a little red here. Hold on, let's see how this looks. I can use this for the shadows. And I think I am going to add a little yellow or some orange. It's just a touch too mint. So I'm going to shake this up. Any questions from anybody in the audience? I don't know if anyone. I see Drew's here. Hey, Drew. Enjoy your shoot today, buddy. Drew is on my cast for Alien Connections. We have our final finale tonight. They unlock 2 more episodes. I'm running in Aliens Ridley verse, and they are on the event horizon from the movie right now. So they're screwed. And then he's also on my Ogre Force show.
The joy on your
face. You've been a Band of Badgers. What's that?
The joy on your face then said it all.
It's a really different show. We're here to talk about painting, but that show is 2 shows. Wednesday's show is A Fugitive, which is a replicant on the run, because we're doing Blade Runner and Alien in the same universe. Mm-hmm. And then the Monday is them chasing down the replicant. Well, the replicant is played by the viewers of the show. They have the character sheet, they make all the rolls, and they do everything. So, but he is a good friend of mine. I've known him for over 20 years now, I think. We've been on band a few times for things, usually causing problems during a Christmas special.
Yep.
All right, so let's just try a little bit of this orange and see if I like I think I want this to have a little pop to it, and almost like I'm thinking neon green for that base, like ghostly green colors.
How are you finding that texture palette, Steve? It's getting good use by the looks of it.
I am liking it a lot, actually. I normally struggle with dry brushing and getting
I was going
the
to
right
ask why it
amount
was
of paint on the
textured,
brush.
actually.
But it's very easy to use, and yeah, it is good, and it's not
Good.
screwing my brush up as well, which is good.
Good, thank you.
Is the texture so like drying your brush up before doing dry brushing is easier? Is that the whole purpose behind it?
The purpose essentially is to aid in the dry brushing technique, because a lot of people struggle with the amount of paint and they put on a tissue or on their skin. So this just allows you, as Steve's demonstrating right now, just to get just the right amount on that you're happy with.
Here we go. All right, so you can see I went from this really bright, or dark, I should say. This was the original green. There's a little glare. Let me cover that a little bit. This is the original green into your spruce, a mint, and then I really wanted this kind of ghostial, and all I did was add a little bit of an orange to it to get a little bit of that ghostial green. And I'm going to start painting the armor here. When we wash it, I'm going to wash it in a black green to kind of get some of that detail that is on this model. And it'll also darken this. So I'm going a hue, like a slight hue brighter, just because I know I'm going to darken it when I wash it. And I like a lot of brighter tones to start, because the more you paint, I mean, granted, you can lighten stuff by adding white to it and do that kind of stuff. But the more you paint, and more you add washes and do stuff, the more you usually end up darkening your model. So I like to start with brighter, vibrant colors, knowing that I'm probably going to wash it down, add things, do recess, do burnishing, and make it look different, and all that kind of jazz, to where I want to make sure that I have a good base tone to start with. I feel like we should have music on or something. I'm not used to painting.
I'm not singing.
I was just going to tell you to sing. Damn it. I can put music on in the background for myself.
So I had a question for you, Ben, actually.
Yeah,
So we was talking about choosing this colour scheme for the models that we're painting. Did you have a very strong vision on what Lazarus looked like when you went to the artist, or was it the artist's decision on the colour palette that he used?
No, when I speak to any of the artists who work with me, I give them an almost overly detailed brief, because I know exactly how I want them to look. Obviously, there's a lot of creative license comes involved, especially when people are deciphering a brief. So there's a little bit of change as the art process goes along, but on the whole, it's as I have it in my mind, because that's one of the things I thoroughly enjoy about doing this, is when I create the characters, I literally build them from the ground up, so I know how they should look, but also I've written the story, which is well in advance to obviously what you guys will know. So I've seen how these characters evolve as well, so they will change over time.
Are you looking to do multiple sculpts to kind of show them getting changing in the story over time?
Yes, eventually you'll have variants of certain characters as they either get more powerful or certain things happen to them over the course of the story. That way it allows you to, when the game eventually will come out in its various guises, you'll be able to play in different timelines as well if you wanted to.
Is this going to be, are you allowed to talk about the game at all? Or are you guys into development for that yet?
So everything is currently in development game-wise. We are in the throes of writing an RPG, which we hope to be playtesting about June time this year.
We play test, just setting it out there. We play test.
And I believe I said on our last chat, I should be gracing you with a storyline for you to go through.
Fantastic.
We also are working on a board game, and I'm currently writing a tabletop game and rule set as well for Mortals Reckoning. So I'm dipping my fingers in all the various pies, as it were, and hopefully you'll enjoy them all.
Yeah. You're doing a custom system for the RPG?
Yeah, everything's a custom system, from board game,
nice.
RPG to tabletop. I wanted something, there's no such thing as unique anymore, but to be as fresh and new as possible, but with also having that hint of familiarity, so you can jump into the games quite quickly, but have a fresh perspective on the way things work.
I'm going to have to grab a little more water.
There's I just noticed, which I didn't see before, but on the mini, the like those shoulder pauldrons.
Yeah.
Is that a horse?
In the
It's
artwork,
like
yes.
It's like a
stallion head.
Yeah. Is that represent something particular to the character?
Yeah, that will go with the storyline of when he goes on the trial to reclaim this armor. So it has a nice backstory to it from its previous wearer. Don't want to tell you too much at the moment because it'll spoil the story, but everything on him, and you see in the artwork, the helm, the armor, the sword and the spear, they all have a trial that he has to undergo, that the veiled emissary, my villain of the piece, sends him on because he can't claim these weapons himself.
Nice.
All these weapons and armor are magical, and they're all ways of defeating the gods, the pantheon of the gods. Because in essence, the veiled emissary has claimed Lazarus' soul so he can be a weapon of destruction for his goal to remove the pantheon and for him to step in their place.
Nice. It's strange. I couldn't see that until I painted it. The paint and the shadows really do, as Steve said, it really does.
I absolutely adore dry brushing because it brings out detail, and when you've got a detailed mini as well, it really helps.
Yeah, you really don't know until you put a dry brush or a wash on something what you're really painting. I do find myself go back and changing color tones because of a dry brush or because of a color. Like this man has a cloak, and I did not pick a color for the cloak on purpose. Once I get these base tones on, since it's the furthest part away from the model, it's going to be the last thing I do my base tone on. And I'm kind of stand back, look at it, and decide what I want the cloak to be. I'm really thinking either a black, or I'm tempted to do like a sunburst yellow and fade it into dirt.
Ooh.
But I want to look at it first and see what it looks like.
You mentioned red earlier, and I love the crimson red, or Vallejo do a fantastic blue.
Yep. I'm a big fan of Vallejo's blues. I like their oranges a lot. I have an entire army I did in their oranges for a company, and I'm a big fan of those. They have a really good airbrush white. Finding white is probably the hardest thing to find that covers well. I'm super happy with the chimeras. They have, like I said, a high pigment rate, and their white actually has the ability to cover black successfully, which is almost unheard of. But I do like Vallejo's reds and yellows and blues. I'm a big fan of those. So you can see I'm mixing a little more of like a split pea here. Probably going to highlight with that.
I think when you were showing the paints earlier, was it Scale 75 that did that beautiful red?
Yeah, that's an ink.
It'd be really interesting to see how somebody uses that on my Curious character, because he has a Spartan red cloak. So that would be nice to see.
So I would do red with green. But like all graphic designers, we have certain colors we don't use together. And because that reminds me of Christmas so much, I refuse to use red and green together on anything.
Yeah, what was it, a month ago? A month ago tomorrow. It was Christmas Day.
Yeah. So I just won't do it. Like my girl yells at me all the time. She's like, it's not the same red and green. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's there. All right. So boots are about done here. And then I'm going to do my base tone on my spear. In the story, are the spears and sword magical? Because in the picture, they're glowing like a blue flame.
Yes, everything he wears is magical, from the armor, the helm, the sword, and the spear. They each have a particular purpose, and they're all
kind of that Greek Roman mythology kind of thing,
and my own thing as well.
I meant more in the style of like everything's got a name, everything's got a purpose.
Everything's associated with a god, a titan, an anti-hero, a villain. They all have wonderful backstories. Obviously, I'm biased, but again, tapping into that Greek mythology and that Roman history. Everything had an association with the gods. Everything was mystical. Everything was just magical. The very essence of what we're missing in real life at the moment with the world as it is.
Very, very true.
Steve, I'm loving your setup. That's headgear and a half you've got on there.
Oh, that's his RoboCop.
Yeah, that's my RoboCop. Yeah.
Here's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do the cloth that comes down in a brown. Because that looks like, or is that the cape that comes through here? That looks like the cape, actually, isn't it?
Yeah,
Right
so
here across the chest?
Across the chest, that'll be the strap that holds the
Cape? Yeah. Boy, I might just do golds and yellows or something for that. I really like the idea of having some gold on these.
See, because of the green, I'm going with a copper and trying to take the verdict.
Yeah, copper tone, nice. Yeah, and you don't have to follow me exactly. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a wash. I'm going to let it breathe for a second. I should have brought a hairdryer in here so I could cheat. If you don't have a hairdryer, when you do washes and stuff, if you let them tack up to where you can't blow them around, like if you can blow the liquid, let it tack up a little more. But you can easily dry a mini with an airbrush fast when you're using acrylic paints. If you've never done it, it's like a trade secret for doing it. We used to do it a lot when we airbrush. Sometimes when you airbrush, you have to paint as well. I used to do photorealistic airbrushing with the Prior Studios in Ohio. And I learned a lot from that man. As a human, I don't like him. I think he's a piece of shit. But as an artist, he's fucking amazing. And I learned a lot from the guy. One, not to be like him. But two, he taught me how to do photorealistic airbrushing back when we had to use like 40 to 50 photocopies. And you have to feather the edges to do like skin tones. So we were doing the original, like the old Buffy the Vampire Slayer calendars and Babylon 5 back in the day. We were doing photorealistic airbrushing.
Nice.
And I learned a lot doing that. I got to go to Universal, do the big piece on the Terminator ride. That was super cool. Yeah, I love using a hairdryer to dry all my crap so I don't have to wait because I'm impatient.
Everything's about layers as well. It's my background's in photography. I'm a Photoshop artist as well, so it's all about layer upon layer. Same thing with painting.
Do you remember back in the day they used to make, you can still get them, but they were the erasers that spin?
Oh, yeah.
That's what we used to feather the edge. We'd cut out the different skin tones and armor tones and clothing tone, and then you would erase around that to feather the paper.
Nice.
And then you would mask with that in airbrush.
Yeah.
I do a lot of masking in miniatures too. What's that?
I still use that technique.
Do you really?
In Photoshop.
Oh, yeah. Of course. That's where they learned all that stuff.
Yeah.
Go. So, as someone who's making miniatures, how do you like all the new miniatures that are coming pre-painted and stuff like that? Is that something your studio is going to look into doing at all, or are you going to stay with the traditional resin and let people paint their own stuff?
No, I like
for these games you have coming out.
I like the traditional idea of you collect the models, you paint the models, and then you have them as you desire. If you want to copy our artwork or have your own spin on it, it's part of the joy of the hobby.
I 100% agree.
Eventually, in the future, I'd like to step into almost the collectible statue aspect of collecting things. So some of the more key characters and the really popular characters have almost a Prime One studio-esque statue of whoever. Obviously, those would be pre-painted, but when you come into this sort of thing, it's the joy of the hobby. I grew up loving it, and it's something I'd like to carry on with.
Were you a 40K player growing up?
Yeah, 40K and the traditional Warhammer, not the Age of Sigmar. I was a big fan of the traditional Warhammer.
Yep. I'm with you on that one.
Started off with orcs and goblins, and then transcended to the joys of Archaon and Chaos.
I mean, Chaos models are some of the most fun thing. Everyone always says, like, what's fun to paint? Like, any Chaos model.
Yeah.
From 40K or Warhammer. Any one of them.
And creating your own.
Yeah.
So much
scales.
you can do.
I'm going to do some metallic work. So Scale 75 has its own series of colors. They even do a Alchemy Red or like a Ruby and Garnet metallic, which is kind of cool. I haven't opened this yet. So we're doing it live, everybody. We're doing it live. Because I want to see how this stuff works. It's been sitting in my case for, I don't know, 2 years. I haven't had much time to paint. I'm really contemplating, like, if you're a painter at home, some of us already have this, some don't. I do not right now. If you can set yourself up a place just to paint whenever you want, like just sit down and paint, I highly recommend doing it because you are more likely to get shit done. Yep. If you just have even like a little desk with a mat and paints on a wall behind it, you are more likely to paint than having to take it out and set it up every time. Like my room, I have a rolling fishing tackle box that has all my stuff in it because I used to travel with it. My airbrush and everything's in the bottom, and I really like it, but I never paint anymore because it's not set up. Yeah. Like I don't get to. And this table I have is pretty large, so I might set that up. So let's see how this stuff works. This might be garbage. I have no idea. Oh, this is legit. You got to poke a hole in it and everything.
So this is where we need the music again for the drama.
I mean, I can pipe some music in.
We need the drama. This is a moment.
Go. It's back over here. Oh, it just blew up all over me. That's just like paint. So how are your models coming along?
Steve, you first. I'm busy.
There's a lot of concentration going on.
Mine's going okay. We've got base coat on the skin. So I'm waiting for that to dry. I'm going to do the armor while that dries.
Really high pick.
And then start highlighting.
I'm going to do a wash here as soon as I get these base tones down. So this is the... Oh, yeah, this will be fine. Highlight over it afterwards. Pretty liquidy, too. Pretty good flow to it. I don't really have to add any water to this. It would take more than one coat because of the darkness here. In story, is the spear all one material?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's currently in the possession of a giant, titanic, monstrous centaur with a cyclopean eye that Lazarus must vanquish to claim the weapon.
For the miniature game, is it going to be more like hero-esque, like 1v1, or are you talking armies for this game?
Tabletop game will be full on armies.
Okay.
The characters that are currently out will be the commanders, as it were. Skirmish games will be a mixture of different elements, different parts of the story. And then RPG is you will be one of several races. And you can play story mode, which is the story that's already written. You can play open world, or you can play mission-based objectives.
Oh, cool. Skirmish games have gotten very large in the last, like, almost 10 years now, I think. But
very popular.
I love it because you can just get in, play it. But the problem I see with skirmish games, if they don't have a larger game attached to them, like you're talking about, they die.
Yeah, you need one of the reasons
why room to grow.
One of the reasons why I started with stories is because people fall in love with a story. That's, as I said before, in many a question that's been asked, I admire Games Workshop's way of doing things. They have evolved you into such a beautiful story that you then want to play with the characters. And the same with my world. I want you to love and love to hate the characters. So when you buy them, paint them, collect them, you've already got that emotion going through you when you've got them in your hands.
Definitely agree with that. So have you both been using the same brush for the entire thing, or have you been switching it up?
No, I've been using the same brush.
Same brush, yeah.
Your dry brush, you use the same brush to dry brush?
No.
Okay, I was like, you hate your brush.
I love this brush. This is my Red Ross number 2, and I use this for virtually everything.
The wrapper, right? Rick Ross, the wrapper, yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Since this is flexible, I think I'm gonna bend this to paint it. There we go. Push that up. All right.
Looking good, Dave?
get in there. So the skin tone, I've done some browns. I'm tempted to do the cloak, but I'm going to add metallics to the weapons.
I'm doing the metallic now, and then I'm going to do the cloak here in just a moment. The nice thing about paint wet palettes too is, so I have a spot where I nicked it with some gold on the back of his bracer here that I can just cover it up. If you didn't have a wet palette, you'd have to go back through, remix all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate that. So, Dave,
Yeah.
You guys have a ton of shows coming out. You're doing a bunch of short, like 6 to 8 episode things. You call it the road to Gen Con, right?
Yep.
So when you get to Gen Con, do you know what you want to do there?
We want to do some live shows. That's
very difficult.
Yeah, that's what we want to do. But everything we do is difficult. So
I feel your pain, my friend.
We start in the difficult and then work our way to easy.
Are you bringing gear and equipment to do that then?
We don't know yet. We haven't. It depends what happens over the next few months. But yeah, we don't know. Is the quick answer.
Fair.
But yeah, we're hoping for things to happen. But
I mean, if you can find a group, that is already, like, so for example, at Gary Con, Casey Rift and Prater's Rejects, they set up a room and they kind of run all the streaming.
Yeah.
For Gary Con, you can find someone who's doing that. A lot of times you can get them to let you use their gear. Sometimes they charge you, or they'll ask to put it on their channel and yours as well. You might be able to find somebody like that. That's kind of what we're looking at doing for Norse Foundry is finding a group that's going to be there and just kind of pairing and partnering up with them.
Yeah. Yeah, very much. That's kind of what we're aiming for. Whether it's going to happen, we don't know. But we'll wait and see. I just had an idea. I'm going to try that actually. Yeah, other stuff we're going to do is help out on various companies who have got stands and shows and things.
Yep.
So we can say hi, spend a few hours there. Most of the time, we're going to hopefully do some networking. Talk to some people who...
That's what I do.
Yeah, talk to people who we can't get to easily. So we can do something with them, hopefully. Introduce ourselves around. Dinners, drinks. That's it. And the main thing is also to turn it into a holiday.
Yeah, and have you been stateside before?
Yes, for bits and pieces, but never for anything like this. So
just for like work or something?
Yeah. So this is this would be the first time doing a convention holiday.
I love Gen Con. It's very different now than what it used to be, obviously because of all the ailments and sicknesses and all that jazz. But it has been one of my favorite cons to go to for quite some time.
Is that your music in the background, Eric?
Yeah, I thought I put a little background music.
I don't have music on.
Turn it down if you can. We can't hear you.
I don't have music on. It's not me.
No.
I don't have anything on. I didn't turn anything on yet.
Steve, have you got music coming through?
No, I don't think it was me.
I don't know what that was. It's not like background noise.
It's all going now.
Anyway, so I love it. It's a fun. I'm looking for something to poke a hole in this one because I don't know where I put my paper clip. I'll scrape that one. I just wish that COVID would go away so we could go back to normal conventions. It's so odd right now going to them. It doesn't feel anything like it used to. But I will say there's a bonus though. There's a bonus though. The bigger shows that used to be like packed and super busy now feel like those intimate small shows that you go to, which has been kind of cool. Like even PAX Unplugged felt a little more intimate than it normally does. It was kind of a nice little escape.
Yeah.
All right, so this is Chestnut ink. I think I'm going to try washing the cape in it and see if I'm happy with it. But I'm going to wash the weapons with it as well to give a little recess. But you can see how thin this stuff is.
Yeah.
And this is an ink.
Wash.
It is, but inks cling instead of just falling into recesses. So you can get actual coverage. And I didn't add any water to this. This is just how they go on.
God, pigment is that is lovely.
Mm-hmm. And so this will be a little auto shaded because I sprayed in that Zenith style on here. And you get a richness that you normally don't get. And now when you work with inks, I will say it'll pool in some spots. I usually have a Q-tip if I want to like stop pooling. I do a lot of oil ink washes. Like, I don't know if you've ever done oil on a miniature, but you can do oil on them. You clear coat, and I usually do a really high clear coat, like a really high gloss. And with that high gloss, you can you have less surface tension and retention, and you can sit and wash in oils in a little bit of paint thinner and push it around. You got a good work time, and you can really get it to pool where you want it to. So a lot of times I'll do that. I'll let it dry. I'll hit it with a hair dryer and let it thin, and dry out. And you get these really vibrant washes that you don't get with acrylic because you're using oil. But in a pinch, inks are the way to go. So that is literally one coat.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah,
To the cape.
lovely.
So I'll probably hit it one more time after this. But even at the bottom, you can see these darker areas from it pooling down here and from the black being underneath, from me hitting it from the underside. All right, we're gonna do our best to do this. Since we're not doing like pro painting, I just put my cape on. You guys asked earlier, should I prime it? I think Dave did. Should I prime it before I put it together? It really, you gotta remember, you're looking at a miniature from a top-down view 90% of the time.
Yeah.
So if you don't cover everything for tabletop, it doesn't matter. If I was doing a crystal brush, this would be a different story. I would paint a lot of these pieces actually individual. But for something where you're just doing a fun tabletop ready where it looks good on the table, it doesn't matter as much. Don't kick yourself while you're painting.
So Ben, there's a question for you. Have you thought about, or has anyone used your minis for championship matches? For
Championship, I don't think so, especially if you're going down a GW sort of championship, because they're extraordinarily strict on using miniatures. Can't speak for other
crystal brush. You could do whatever you want.
Yeah,
it didn't matter. And there was like bust categories, diorama categories, and then miniature sizes that you could pick to do. These are very detailed, though. I will say you guys have gotten some high detail out of your sculpts.
Thank you. Well, it was the whole point. It was to say, as being a fan of the hobby from 10 years old, I've used all sorts of miniatures, all sorts of brands, proxying.
Mm-hmm.
I collected whatever I liked because I just loved the aesthetic of them. So with that background, I wanted to deliver some dynamic and highly detailed miniatures for people. I believe a chap used my Minotaur character Raktagar and then did it into a small painting competition where he won an award, but can't remember what competition it was. But he did a wonderful job with that. Even painted a nice bespoke background for the piece. Put it on a little diorama.
Dioramas are some of my favorite things to do when I was doing miniatures competitively. I love building them.
It's amazing.
Super fun.
To do with foam and all sorts of clay.
Oh, so before Adeptus Mechanis came out, we hand and scratch built an Adeptus Mechanis army.
Lovely.
Because the rules were out, but there were no models. And we scratch built them. And my God, super fun, super time consuming, but super fun.
It's amazing how you just turn something that looks very, very simple, and then just after a couple of layers of doing something, how it just suddenly pops and looks so real.
For a lot of it, I used we used the plastic balls out of vending machines. like that you get your toys in,
Yeah.
because it works so well as a base plastic for a lot of what we were doing. It was awesome.
I'm working on a couple of diorama projects for the stand for next year. Knee deep in XPS foam at the moment.
Oh yeah. Do you still paint and hobby a lot now that you have a company, or do you find that you're too busy?
Too busy. I haven't managed to enjoy the hobby side of it for quite a while. I used to game quite regularly, both 40k and fantasy. I was a big Space Wolf player and a big Chaos player, but this has captured me mind, body, and soul, and throw myself.
And that's not a bad thing.
Not at all. I love every part of creating, chatting like we're doing now, designing. I love all of it.
How long did it take you to get the company up and going to where you were able to start selling stuff?
I'd say about a year. I was in a position where I had a small range, started with 5 miniatures, and then grew it from there, really.
It's awesome.
But I've noticed, well, I've taken note rather, that 3.5 years into this, things suddenly evolve much faster, because when you're designing a world or worlds, they suddenly have a life of their own after a certain period, and things start to just build naturally. And that's, again, one of the wonderful parts of building Mortal's Reckoning, especially for the RPG, because you've got to have an immersive world you could effectively live in, that you start to think about politics, you start thinking about finances, topography, everything. It's just so consuming, but so enjoyable.
A lot of my world building, I start, since I do cartography and world build, I start with a map. I would say 70% of the time before I start with much else. And I build from my map out. So I have a tabletop setting that I do and on one of my streams, which is soul punk Victorian horror, where you're using souls almost as a currency, and people have reliquaries they talk into when their family members die. There's no purgatory anymore. And I created the map, the base map, when I was still working doing car sales, sitting in there on a dead day in the snow in Wisconsin. I remember creating that. But I think I start with maps most of the time. So even for adventures, I start with a map over most things.
With maps, do you start with a shape already in your mind, or do you find when you're creating a landmass that it just creates its own shape when you're doodling?
So if I'm doing a world map, I usually have a concept in mind, and it usually is based on, am I looking for something that is a very broken? Am I looking for a solid mass? If I'm looking for a solid continent, am I looking for primarily mountain ranges? Do I want diversity in my different environments and biomes? But when I'm doing a map for an adventure, say a dungeon or a tactical map, it's usually about how I want to challenge the players or the viewers or the users when they're using the map. So those have a real specific purpose when I'm doing it. But world maps, man, I've tried the dice one where you just throw dice down and you draw lines around it. That's fun. But usually it's I know, like, here's where a capital is, or how did the world form, or has it changed? My world was kind of torn apart when all the planes got pulled away, and there's no oceans anymore. There's just these dark tides that flow that have no buoyancy. So how did that happen? Well, that means a lot of the coastal shelves eroded away. People built structures underneath it to keep the continents from falling. So those were the thought processes as I was drawing that. But for a world that I'm doing for another company right now, the world map is based on, they told me they wanted X part of our world. And my first words to them were, stop making our world fantasy worlds, just fucking make a map. Like, be original. Like, you can use it as idea, but don't just make Russia. Don't just make Europe. Like, do something.
Well, that's the beauty of a landmass, isn't it? It can be any shape you want, any size you want, and you can be as adventurous with it as you want to be.
I'm a big fan of the old Planescape system and how they did planes during that. I love the idea of like a layered plane, almost like a cake, where each layer is something different. I really enjoy outside of the box stuff like that. Granted, I don't want it in every campaign I'm playing in, but in certain ones, I sure as hell do. And I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, when I'm doing maps, there's usually a purpose behind it. Unless it's on a cocktail napkin, then I was just bored and probably drunk. All right, so we got our leathers down, our weapons done. I'm gonna wash the skin tone to fill in some of the crevices and cracks. I did some base, I don't know if you can catch it, but I did some base highlighting on the helm, on the pauldrons, and just kind of where the light would be hitting. I'm adding a little bit of brighter green before I do my first wash, just because I want it to be evident before I do my wash that those are the highlight points. So when I go back through and do my highlights, I can see them easily. I'm actually going to change brushes here. This one's a little too thick, what I want to do. Steve, Dave, how far are you all in your painting?
I'm about the same as you, but I haven't done the weapons. So I've got the skin base tone on. I've done the copper on the armor and the helmet, boots. I've put a little bit of brown on the thong waist. I haven't done the cape yet because I can't decide what to do with that. So I'm just going to go and put some base highlights on the skin before I put wash over it, while I still wait for the leather to dry.
Yeah, I'm doing a really, really thin. It's like really bright green. You can probably see it's almost like a ghostial green here. Feels weird. I'm not looking into the camera at all. It's the reason I never did a painting show. I was like, oh, I can't look at the camera. I'm looking down the whole time. Do you, well, all three of you, do you guys have people that you love to watch paint on YouTube that you use as inspiration for your stuff? I have a couple.
Yeah, I have.
I just don't know if you guys have anybody maybe I haven't seen.
I like watching Don Cerberus and Angel Morales. Those are the two go-tos for me.
Yeah,
but I like Miniac as well, but I'm not really into the whole Warhammer thing, and that's a lot of what he paints. I
like his paint style. I love how his production quality is what I really enjoy. I watch Black Magic Craft a lot, and then my hidden gem, which is how I found out about Chimera paints, is let me look his name up here. Italian gentleman. No, not Capital One. That's not YouTube. Let's see here. His name is Marco Frizzoni. Marco Frizzoni. And that's the name of his channel. I'll just put it on screen here. It is this gentleman here. Big fan of his work. He's the one I learned a lot of oil painting on miniatures from. He does a lot of amazing color theory. You can see how vibrant his stuff is. Amazing artist. And he's definitely more along the style of how I like to paint miniatures. I love looking at artwork, and I like duplicating the style of the artist and the way they are handling brushstrokes on a model versus the traditional way that I paint. Like just, oh, this is the highlight, this is what I do. And the reason is I find I come up with very inspired pieces that I probably wouldn't have came up with without doing that. So looking at Vallejo, looking at all those classic artists and how they're using color, how they're not super detailed on what they're doing. Like they're not painting in every nook and cranny and doing everything. I found I've gotten some of my best models doing that. And this gentleman is a big inspiration for that kind of newer style of painting that I've been trying over the last, I would say, 2 years or so.
I think
You just did one on
YouTube and Instagram have such a wealth of talent now showcasing their work that you can lose yourself for hours just watching talented artists with their various techniques and learning what they do and then trying it yourself and just keep trying with different things. It's made things change so much since 10 years ago, even 20 years ago when I was modeling. So,
when we didn't thinner paints?
Yeah, using good old lead paint.
Yeah. Oh, testers, baby. How are you today? Talk about a tummy ache. I agree. I think that's one of my favorite things of being an art director is finding new artists and new ways that digital medium is being painted. And it's just inspiring as an artist myself to see what people are doing. I really do love it. So you can see I'm kind of taking a top-down angle for my highlights. I'm being very liberal. I'm just kind of painting it in and going over everything. And I'm looking at it as if the zenith light is coming from this side, kind of like this. So I'm just kind of hitting where I think all the highlights would be. I love focal point lighting for doing miniatures. It really kind of helps you figure out where your light would come from and what it's supposed to look like. That's why I prime the way I do as well. And I use my thumb to wipe off paint all the time. If you can't tell, I usually wear gloves, but today I decided not to so you could see it because I thought black gloves would be a little difficult to read on camera. So that's pretty much all the base highlighting I'm going to do since we're trying to crank these out. I just realized I missed some highlighting back here behind Cloak.
Dave's going.
Do you have
his own angle by the looks of it? The nice dark coloured cloak.
This is
yeah, and that's one color. That's one paint, nothing else.
I'm going
and he's in blue. Oh, you did the royal blue. Nice,
he's
man.
Blue.
Just to see.
Don't forget, you can bend that spear out of the way.
Yep.
I'm gonna darken it through here because it's probably been dragged through mud. Do you have a favorite mini from your line so far?
Waxes and wanes, depending on when I'm writing a particular story about a character. One of my latest ones is Archon Sakul on his 4-steed chariot. I've just finished writing his story, so he's very much a firm favourite of mine. But I was asked this question, in fact, live on Band of Badgers last week. And
okay.
Corvina is one of my fan favourites at the moment and my own personal favourite. I'm writing quite an in-depth story about her as well as my queen assassin, so she's top of the list at the moment.
Well, I got one for you. They probably didn't ask. Going back, because you've been doing this for 3 to 4 years now, do you have a mini that you would redo hands down?
Redo? No. I would say...
Like you would like a different sculpt now that you're like into the writing and everything else?
I'd say evolving is probably the way I'd word it.
Sure.
There are... The Kyrios himself, I would evolve as a miniature because it goes with the story, but also as the base itself as well. When I first started writing about my villain, the Kyrios, he was already a taskmaster and a lord of war and a very violent individual. But as I've got more into writing about him, he's become even more so, losing his identity and becoming more of this individual who quests for immortality at whatever cost. So I probably would have started with him being a lot darker than he is at the moment. Because at the moment, he just looks like a battle-hardened Spartan king. But he will end up far from his origins.
All right.
But again, that's the beauty of the evolution of the way I've designed these characters, because they will evolve not only in story, but as in with miniatures as well. You can see that evolution.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always wanted miniatures. I had a miniature game I was designing. Remember the old, I don't know if you're a video game guy at all, but the old Army of Two game. I was designing a miniature game based around it where you could click on your armors for light, medium, and heavy for a model. And they'd have booster packs that you could buy to upgrade them. And then it'd be you and a buddy playing just a model piece with a bunch of options. And then somebody else would be playing all the gangs and the mobs and stuff that you fight within Army of Two, and they would be controlling them more on a mass scale. But I wanted something where it had magnet click points, and now there are companies that are actually making built-in magnetic miniatures now.
Oh yeah,
with click points, and I love that concept. It's something that I've always enjoyed, being able to like magnetize stuff. That's been one of my favorite things in the hobby. Is maybe even more than painting, is customizing a miniature with mag points, especially in 40K when you don't want to buy 8 of a vehicle, but you still want to be able to switch out that flamer on redeemers and stuff. So I loved doing that stuff. And magnets were like a game changer for me when I started doing that.
Oh, magnets are great for when you're building dioramas as well.
Oh my God, especially for packing and shipping.
Yeah, Well, if you're building a modular system, magnets are just perfect.
All right. I think I'm pretty happy with this. I mean, I see some parts that I haven't covered, but the camera doesn't, so I don't
Let's
care.
have a closer look. Then we're down to the last half hour. Let's have a closer look. Everybody sticking me on camera.
We switched to just the camera. Hold on.
Coming together nicely, Dave.
Yeah, I think hopefully with I haven't done the wash yet, so I'm going to put that in and see what that comes out with.
Let me focus this a little bit for you.
Nice, Steve. Really interesting.
Yeah.
Same character, 3 different ways. Nice.
Yeah. God, I love that. This ink from the Scale 75 is really nice.
Yeah, the tones on that cloak with that ink are lovely.
Just one coat, man. It's nuts. And I'm gonna they have a green that I'm gonna wet down with their black here. And that's what I think I'm gonna try doing my wash with. So they have an intense green, which is very similar to this. And then they have a intense black here. And I think I'm going to try doing these instead of using the Devlin mud and stuff. I think I'm going to add these together and see what I get. I could fuck it all up. Who knows? It happens. So I'm going to go back to regular cam here. Is there any questions? Steve, the body is popping.
What are you doing else with that cloak, Dave? Are you going to do some trim to it? Are you going to highlight it?
I have no idea yet. I'm definitely going to try to put some edging on it, because that's the bit I've never really been successful in that. So it's practice.
Edging. So I'll teach you something cool about edging. Don't use the point. Use the barrel of your brush.
Okay.
So when you're looking at, let me see if I get a long one here. If I can. As a little bit longer. So let's say I'm painting. Let me go back to my cam here. Let's say I'm painting this paperclip. Like I want this is the edge on the armor you want to hit.
Yep.
If you put paint on your brush, I'll use this yellow because we should be able to see it pretty well then. Does this count against my time?
Yes.
If you go like this and you kind of roll your brush, get it so it's got a nice barrel shape to it. And if you just hit it with the barrel of your brush, you get the brown, but when I turn it, there's nothing on the sides.
Yeah.
If you try to do the same thing with the tip of your brush, it'll split and you'll get it on the sides. So if you just use the barrel and kind of go, if this is your grain, your edge, and you go this way, cross section,
yeah,
you can get a nice edge brush. It's how you do edging on weapons, vehicles, things like that. That's like one of those things where you do it and then you're like, oh my God, I don't have to use microns anymore. Not that I would ever use a micron on a miniature. Micron's a marker, if you don't know. Someone in chat said they like Ninjon and they picked up an airbrush. What airbrush did you pick up, bud? I'm a big airbrush fan. I have a Grex. I'm a big fan of it. I can spray lacquer through it. It's got titanium O-rings in it. One of my best purchases. Pretty silent compressor, which, you know, those are rare.
I must say I'd love to try airbrushing. I just haven't had the chance yet or the time. I do love painting with a brush, but I think you need that practice with an airbrush to get those techniques down.
Do it on terrain. Start on terrain. Yeah. That's the best way to learn it.
Great on terrain, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of them. I think they're for everything? No. But do I love them? I use them quite frequently. I find that they speed up. Like all of this, I could have auto shaded with an airbrush in about 15 minutes. And that's like really for me where they sing.
Yeah, once you've got those techniques and you know how to do the shading, and it's effortless and so quick.
Oh, that one had soap on it. I forgot I left my brush shaping soap on it. So I get for licking it. artists lick brushes to shape them all the time, but I leave. So this is a soap to clean your brush, right? You can get them anywhere. There's a bunch of different ones, and you shape them. And then a lot of people wash the soap off. You're better off, and I learned this just in art school. Leave the soap on. It leaves the bristles in good shape. If they get bumped, it won't damage them, and you can just rinse it off in your in your cup. Hence why I have that foam at the bottom. I can just kind of wipe off all that stuff. It doesn't taste like soap anymore. I have dirty water here. I don't know if you guys saw me bring it out earlier. This is what I use for my airbrush. It's a spray bottle with a really small nozzle. But for paint palette work, it's nice because you can add water that's clean if you don't want this tone in it anymore. Because my water is green right now. And I'm going to use that to mix these two inks together. And I'm going to water them way down. And try to do a quick wash and see what it looks like. If it looks like garbage, I won't do it. And then I'm probably going to add a little blue in this, to be honest. I love blue inks on green. I feel that it adds just a little bit of color that is usually missing. So we're going to do, oops, wipe this off.
So here's a question that can be asked by all three of you. What's your ideal miniature to paint? Something large like a beast, or the more smaller things like the characters, vehicles? What's your
ideal? I'm a monster guy. I love kaiju. Painted a lot of kaiju over my years.
Is that because of the color format you can use or the size?
I think for me, it's the variety of textures that you get on monster models versus humanoid models. A lot of times you're painting a knight with a bunch of hard plates. 40K, you're painting a bunch of the same soldiers. But when you're painting monsters, you have the ability to finally like gloss certain areas and make them candy coated, and other areas can be matte. I just love the way monsters kind of come together. More than doing flat plane surfaces. Like vehicles are probably my least favorite thing to paint. I really don't enjoy it anymore. If I do it, I'm stenciling the living shit out of them.
So even with all the battle damage you can do on vehicles, you can interact with the environment, with mud and snow, blood.
But I can do that to a monster.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I don't. I painted a lot of RC cars growing up, and I just don't enjoy doing vehicles as much. I will say, I do like doing vehicles for Eldar, though. Just because they have some of the most crazy freaking paint schemes of all time. So I do enjoy doing that once in a while. What about you two? Do you guys have favorite models to paint?
I prefer the larger ones, so like the ogres. The thing that I've painted most recently that was my favourite thing to paint was a red ogre from Scarlet Citadel that Dave has got. I really enjoyed painting that.
You paint all the miniatures for the shows, right?
Not all of them, no.
Oh.
But I do quite a few. So there was two for Scarlet Citadel stream. The two favourite things I painted was the red ogre, because it was a completely off the wall colour scheme that I'd never thought about, and it was actually from the adventure, but I really enjoyed how it turned out. And I did that with an airbrush as well, which was unusual because this first mini I painted with an airbrush. And then the second lot we haven't seen on stream yet, but it's some skeletons, and I really, really like the way they turned out. So for me, it's monsters, because you can be a bit more creative.
I love painting skeletons, man. I did a noir army of skeletons where they were black and white, and then the heads down, like that are outside of the fog, were in color. Like they were coming out of a noir film. It was pretty dope.
Yeah, very cool.
Black and white. Not even noir, it's black and white. Dave, you got a favorite?
I'm behind everyone else. So the stuff I've painted live on show. That's the only stuff I've ever painted. So
really,
there's I mean, I like. The problem is, the very first mini we painted was a Paizo Goblin, Pathfinder Goblin, which are tiny.
Yeah, they are.
And then when we moved to kind of full humanoid size figures, it was like, oh, okay, that's a bit better. But I still haven't properly done. We've done a few kind of larger size monsters, but nothing that's
There's
kind
time
of really
consuming.
been. Yeah, but I want a project where I can do. I mean, I've got dragons and stuff that all needs painting, but I don't think I can tackle that yet. But I would like to. That's where I want to get to.
My favorite monster to paint of all time is probably the new like detailed beholders that have been coming. Oh, eye tyrants that have been coming out of STL files from like custom artists.
Oh yeah.
I love a beholder to paint. There's so much fun if they're done right. That kind of a monster is like one of my favorite things.
Is that because of the artwork you can do with the eye?
I think it's like I love glossing the eye and candy coating it. I do multiple layers to it, so it's got some depth to the eye. The skin tone can be scaly. Sometimes it's armored. It just depends. And I feel like every time you paint them, there's something different. And I love doing the particle effects for the eyes, like making the eye beams part of the model. I really enjoy doing that stuff. And it's also just one of my favorite models of all time, or monsters of all time. I think it would be like in D&D, it'd be Beholder and Umbra Hulks are probably my two favorite things to paint. In 40K, it would probably be any of the larger Tyranid models. And then in Kaiju, I did a Mecha Godzilla, which was a lot of fun because I did non-metallic metals for it and with oil paints, which was super fun. And then probably the 2000 Godzilla, but I painted it as like the old school color schemes, like the bluish greens and stuff.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. And I dremeled it all out and lit it. And then I made fins for the back of it out of a plexi and half painted the plexi. So you had like this bright light that came through. That was super fun. I gave that away as a gift. So like those are probably some of my more favorite things I've done. So you can see I've washed it and you got a little bit more depth to the greens now. I'm going to do the skin now. And I'll go back through with one more highlight, a really bright, hard green highlight, and hit all this stuff. And I'm going to do a black wash in these because I really want these pauldrons to pop. I feel like there's so much detail in them that I'm not getting. Same with the bracers. So I'm probably going to do one dark wash. What we got here? Guess we're going to have to do some old Bad Ab Black. Can't believe I'm actually going to pull this out of the box. I haven't used a 40K color in so long. Right, I'm sorry, Games Workshop. Have any of you ever made your own washes? Using like the flow aids and stuff that you can do to make them?
Joe has.
Pretty cool.
He was using it for dip painting on his.
Oh, yeah. Journey. We used to use Minwax back in the day. For dip painting. It's where Army Painter came up with all their stuff, actually. All right. Sorry, I'm painting in a light. My hand blocks this light because of where everything's set up.
Okay, we're down to the last 15 minutes.
Oh, well, then I'm going to have to stop doing this and just do highlights.
There's going in with a new color.
Yep, it was.
Maguire in live chat. What did you say? Monster Apocalypse. What's Monster Apocalypse?
Monpoc is great, man. Monster Apocalypse Privateer Press. They do monster kaiju combat stuff. It used to be pre-painted plastic minis, and now they are ones you can build and do your own. I'm painting up the mecha version that came out as Mausers from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Well,
super fun game.
If you like monsters, you should be really looking at Emperor Aronoth.
What's that?
That's my.
Is that one of yours?
That's one of mine. 230mm tall beast. He's wonderful.
Really?
He's my Emperor Demon.
I'd probably spray him.
Angel Giraldes or Angel Giraldes did a video airbrushing him and painting him.
Oh, cool.
We've got him as one of the images that come up. Eric is fantastic. Like just
Is it that
skin.
big tall guy that
Yeah.
was just on screen?
The big
Yeah.
demon, yeah. It's just the skin is just incredible. The amount of texture on it, I think, it's just.
I'm gonna try something here. A little risky, but we're gonna try it.
Yeah, and the Emperor, you've got natural body armor, natural pauldrons, spikes, teeth, flesh, hooves. You've got a lot on him. Musculature. Airbrush, dry brush, paintbrush, dream.
Oh, yeah, I would, and what size did you say he is?
He's 230 mil tall.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's a sizable beast.
Almost not enough time to do detail work when you're doing these. All right. So here's where I'm at. Pulling some recess. Details for the rib or the abs. Then I'm gonna do this.
Finger painting.
Wiping it off because I don't have a Q-tip on me. Normally I Q-tip this.
It's a whole new channel and TV show, that finger painting your models.
Yeah, right. I definitely have the base tones that I want, and I have most of the skin tone I want. Really, what I may be doing next is I'd be going through and just doing like 3 or 4 layers of highlights. Because that's normally about the phase where things start coming together when you do highlights. All the way up into that, you're just kind of setting down base tones to make it look good.
So the question is, if we're running out of time for that, will you get it done and show it us?
Won't be this week. I have 2. So this show, I have an hour and a half break. I have a finale tonight. Tomorrow I have a show. Wednesday I'm setting up for our new show.
Eric
Coming up
is
here
the
on
only
Thursday
person-
afternoons.
Eric is the only person I know who does more streaming than me.
So on Thursday
Live.
afternoons, 88 Riddles and I are going to be doing a watching paint dry show, which he paints dice boxes. He's super talented.
His stuff is really cool. So I've never spoke to him yet, but his stuff is really freaking good.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing that, and I'm really excited to see kind of what we're doing for that show. That's coming up. That'll be over on Norse Foundry. And then this Friday, I don't have a show, but I will be doing some more. I've been playing the new Guardians of the Galaxy video game, and I'm probably going to stream that for a little while.
I wanted to get that. Is it good?
It is absolutely amazing. It is some of the best dialogue in a game I have ever seen or heard.
Nice.
The new film's coming out this year, isn't it? The new
It
Guardians.
is.
Oh, is it this year?
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
Yeah,
It's funny because that game did really bad in the beginning, and it went down because it was up against something else, and it went down to like from $60 to like $30, right?
Yeah.
Then it won an award
Went
for
back
best soundtrack, and now it's back up to $60.
Yeah. It was in the PlayStation holiday sale, and then there was like, oh, I'll get it then, and then it was gone.
Yep, it is a phenomenal game. I highly recommend it.
And quite a bit of controversy about Batista, hasn't there, with the latest Guardians?
Yep. All right, I think we are near done for this. I'm going to close these so I don't knock them over because washes are a fucking pain in the ass to clean up. Maybe worse than anything else on the face of the planet. And I'm going to try in this we got 10 minutes here.
Yep.
I'm going to try to get some highlighting in here real fast.
Technically, you got 9 minutes, but we're not counting.
10 minutes. And let's see. we can do. All right. You guys know the trick where you put your paint palette in the fridge?
No.
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 You seal it, you put your paint palette in the fridge, you can re-water it afterwards, you get extra days out of it.
Oh.
Ah,
So you
okay.
can leave your paint on the palette. So if you're like working on a specific model and you really need to make sure that it lasts longer than, you know, the one day that you're painting it, you can put it in the fridge. Especially with these grass ones, because you can seal them. I don't know if there's a top for your texture one at all. But they have a top on them, you can do it. Or if you're not, you can just saran wrap over top. Just make sure it doesn't touch the paint. I do that a lot when I have like really detailed paints where I'm like usually doing skin tone. Skin tone's a thing. Skin tones and non-metallics are the things that really, you don't want to have to remix your colors every time you sit down.
Yep.
The concentration levels ramped right up in these last 5 minutes.
Yep.
That's the good bit. That's when everyone's concentrating. Can't talk. We're concentrating. It's, again, so Ben, something you can do is in 5 minutes you will be judging. You will be judging me, Steve, and Eric to pick the winner of the most coveted brush off gold star. And then
You're gonna mail me a gold
week-
star, buddy?
So I do. So every week, every episode, because we've got a few more kind of Cerberus sessions like this coming up. You get to award a gold star, and they accumulate. So Steve can earn more, I can earn more, but the guests will also earn more. So like Eric, he won't earn more as Eric, but the guest painter will earn more spots over time.
Can I stack my team? Can we draft?
No, it's always
I'd like
been
Jason
decided.
Tickner to come on and paint, and then
But if you want to invite them, let them know. More the merrier.
I'll be happy to.
Set up an
I'll
introduction.
invite Studio Ultra Manga. He's really good. He does a lot of infinity painting.
So how am I judging these? Are we doing it out of 5? Or are we doing it how you're...
Oh, we just
What's your scale?
stick the camera, stick the figure on the camera, and you go, Dave, that's the best, and then that's it. Then we're done. Everyone goes home happy.
So I just heard that you want me to say, Dave, that's the best, yeah?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I'm actually really, I'm really
Am I
impressed
being the
with how
judge
it's come
already?
out. Yeah. This is it's quite nice.
I wanted to pick a color scheme that most people don't get to do. Then I get to clean this up fast, add another spot for a camera, because I think we're going to have a 5th person tonight for our finale. And I got to try to get everybody on the screen. And my overlays are very detailed. So I don't know. We're going to see how quick I can do this. I think I can, though. I've had to do worse. So do you got any new miniatures coming out that you're excited about that you can talk about?
Oh yeah, the list is endless. So Sakul comes off pre-order at the end of January. He's available for generic ordering. So he'll be on general release, which is my 4-steed chariot. After that, in February, we've got a 3-horseman cavalry unit, a standard bearer, a bowman, and a spearman.
Okay.
They should be coming out as a singular unit in Feb. And we've got a host of new bases coming out soon as well.
Nice. I love that this came with a base, by the way. I know I didn't say that at the beginning, but miniatures that come with like more artistic
I didn't even paint the
and
base.
definitely.
Yeah, again,
I did not paint the base. Base is the last thing I painted.
I painted the base, so just remember that, Ben, when you're judging. I painted the base.
Oh, is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, this texture
Okay, I
base
see how you are.
is fantastic. And also, I think when we UK Games Expo last year, me and Steve came up to Birmingham. Ben was there as well. And I think that was the first time we saw you selling those bases. You could buy a selection of bases, which are also available on your website.
yes, yes. So as I just was just saying, we've got bases out at the moment, but I'll be releasing more very shortly. End of Feb, beginning of March. Host of new bases in different landscape settings, and then also with Archon Cool, which is the chariot. You can also have a very large 170mm oval bespoke base with him as well.
Cool.
So
I love good bases, man.
Again,
building your own is fun, but I don't always have time.
Lends atmosphere to the miniature, which is one of the reasons why we did it.
Agreed. Here, my base is painted now too.
I have to say, another joy of doing this is, as your job is, you get to create all the characters and miniatures that you felt you were missing when you were a younger player. And
Oh yeah,
always
for
chariots.
sure.
I loved chariots, and now I've managed to create my own. It's great, a dream come true.
They are very rare. You don't see a lot of them and stuff, at least not good ones.
No, I mean, again, the latest one I played was with a chaos chariot that was being pulled by a chaotic gorilla. That wasn't a chariot for me. So a 4-horse chariot going back to the old glory days of Ben-Hur is perfect.
Okay, we are 1 minute.
Sure we are, Dave. Sure we are.
1 minute. To paintbrushes down.
Yeah.
You got some of the detail popping on the pauldrons there, Dave?
Yeah, I'll explain when I have everybody's attention. Then we can try and see what this looks like.
Very neat strap work.
You know what? I'm really happy with that, actually. That has really come out. It helps by the colour choice as well. So we have got this kind of grey. I've got grey bluey skin, so very kind of Guardians of the Galaxy. But yeah, we'll trying to get those metallics to shine. There we go.
Yeah, very neat.
But okay, time's up. Time up, gentlemen.
All right, just wash this brush out and close this.
Okay, Ben, the choice is yours. Who would you like to see first?
Well, as yours is up already, let's start with you, Dave.
Okay.
Have a nice close-up.
Right, let's get everyone's attention on the minis. So, Steve, you ready? Here we go. Here's some judging.
The headset off, so I didn't hear that.
Right, so here we're gonna.
As Dave's was ready, Dave's is up first.
So
Okay.
we're going in first. So get ready to lose, losers. If only. Right. So I've done the bluey grey skin. With a final wash on that, trying to get some definition. There's a clasp here which I've used metallic gold here and here, so I managed to pick those up. And then on the helmet and the shoulders and the gauntlets, I did a bit of dry brush and metallic, so that's why it kind of reflects it. It looks quite nice actually. It looks like it's tarnished, like he's been through the wars. The sword and the spear, what I've done to try to match that artwork, what I did was I put a blue in the middle of the blade. If you can see that, it's picking it up.
Yeah.
And then in the hilt, I've done like a red with a glaze on top to make it shine. And then
nice.
It's gold edging. So the whole
Look, you
thing
do with
is.
advanced techniques in glazing as well.
Good job, man.
So there you go. See that one, you can really see it pop out there. So you've kind of got that blue from the smoke. Trying to do the. There's no way I can do a smoke effect, but then I've got the red which really pops out from the gold, and I've done a daub of glazed varnish so it will shine.
Nice.
So with that metallic.
Ooh.
I've used the red on the spear tip as well. There you can see it there. So you got a blue with a red, like a red.
Oh
jewel.
yeah, look at you! You add color to it. Wow.
Yeah. And then even on the top of the spear, there's two like red gems, and again they are. So everything has like a shadow wash.
Did you
definition
paint
pop.
those? Are those like a I can't. I'm trying to look at the paint. Is it a gloss red paint?
It's what is it? It's called Blood Red from Vallejo, and then I've used a gloss varnish on
Nice.
top. Let it dry. Let that
Nice.
pop out. What I wanted to do, which now you can see, I mean, he's got his kind of kilt on there. His bit strappings, but what you can actually see,
Loincloth.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then
codpiece come a loincloth.
when you look at the artwork, and when you can see it because there's colour and I've got wash in there, you can see that it's kind of ripped in different pieces. So I wondered about putting some different colour in there, and on the boots as well, there's a bit of metallic dry brushing of gold, just to make that stand out. The cloak is that imperial blue, and the wash is still drying, but you can see there's kind of the mud effect is collecting along the bottom there.
Yeah, nice work on the left there.
Yeah, that's definitely some advanced stuff there. Beginning painter, my ass, sir.
It is
A
true.
beginner,
Steve, how
sir,
many
does not
hours?
use glazes.
Where are we up to, Steve? Have you hit 40 hours yet?
You're on 40 hours now, yeah.
There you go. 40 hours of painting. Learning
Really?
by
Good,
getting
man.
professional artists to come on and teach me their tricks. I am learning. So here we go. And also that royal blue versus the sky blue and that red, that makes that little red accent really pop out, which I'm quite pleased with.
Technique is everything when you're painting. Like, if you can learn a technique that cuts time down, you are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Anyone tells you that that's cheating, they can fuck right off.
Yeah. But again, definition on this is once painted, incredible. Half the stuff I couldn't see anyway. But
Yeah, you've made this torso pop.
yeah. Got some really good shadowing right down the middle. Yeah, so I'm very pleased. And that
Nice.
metallic brush works really, really well.
Nice.
Yeah, you've done very neat work on those straps. Lovely.
Cool.
Okay, Steve, let's jump over to you, sir.
Let's see if I can see my own video. Alright. Okay, so before I show you this, I have a admission to make. When I was putting this together, I broke the sword off. That I dutifully repaired, and obviously didn't do a very good job, because when I was dry brushing it, it came off again. So I've got to repair that.
Oh, it came off while you were painting today?
It came off while I was dry brushing. You know, I was dry brushing
Oh,
at the beginning.
yeah.
It popped off. So
That aggressiveness, man.
yeah, it is.
A light touch, sir. A light touch.
So there it is, gone. Right, so I primed in black, and then I did dry brush undercutting in a series of greys to replicate where it did, which was a Zenithal prime. I then used a dark base green. I think it was sick green I used, which was quite a dark one, that one, as my base coat for the skin. And then I did 2 levels of highlighting on the high points, you can just see. Then I washed in black green. So I have a black green ink, and I added black wash to it, as well as some airbrush thinner that I just washed in. So that's still a bit wet. It's gone in recesses nicely. So
What made you use the airbrush thinner?
just to make it a bit more watery, because I think with the Vallejo wash, particularly the black, if you don't water it down, it
Pretty strong.
Yeah, it's a little bit too strong, and
Fake.
you get some grain in it as well, I think. So that's still drying, so I haven't highlighted again. You can still see the highlights I did before, but I haven't gone back over them.
Nice.
The leather hasn't highlighted at all. that hasn't been washed. The copper was 2 thin coats of copper over the dry brushing I did for the armor. Again, I haven't gone back over and highlighted those, so I haven't dry brushed or anything on those. The cloak I did in sun yellow mixed with leather brown to sort of make an ochre colour. That I then did wet blending at the bottom with some charred brown. And again, that is still wet. If I'd had a hairdryer, that probably would look a bit better.
Yeah.
I used to have a portable little tiny hair dryer to take with me to tournaments and shit.
Yeah, I normally bring one down, but I forgot today.
I forgot to, man. Don't feel bad.
And I haven't done the weapons yet, but I was going to do the same as Dave and try and lay some colour in the centre and then edge highlight, because the dry brushing actually looks really good. So a thin layer of paint in the middle with just a little bit of colour on, I think would work really well. So yeah, that's it.
Very nice.
I've broken it and not finished, but I did paint the base.
You've got
So
some
there's
deep. You've done a nice job on the base. It's really nice.
I like the. What are you guys using for your holders? Are they just paint jars, or are they the
No,
holder?
It's the red.
Oh,
red
they're
glass
those.
holder.
Nice. I got an old Citadel one.
They're really good. Just
Are they
sit there
putty
all
dime?
day.
Yep.
Yeah. I've pinned my mini as well, so if I
I've been
pull that
muting
out,
myself so I can blow on my miniature, so it doesn't. So it's drying.
I won't
You
pull it
hey,
out,
you
but
said I can't paint anymore. You didn't say I couldn't blow my mini.
You've got some detail popping on him, Steve, as well.
So you did green skin for yours.
Yeah.
I did. I
You
did.
went Hulk on him.
I did. I don't know why. I washed it in green and thought, yeah, I'll go with the green and copper. I might put a bit of red on there. I'm not sure yet, but I quite like the way it's turned out, and I really like the detail on the chest, and the abs.
Yeah, it's popped.
I'm gonna move
Very
my
nice.
light over, and I'm going to move my paint palette out of the way.
So that was mine. I will finish that, and I will mount him on the base as well, and repair it.
Repair him. Like I said, I almost metal pinned mine, but I was like, nah, we'll be good. And I didn't break anything, thank God.
I didn't metal pin that. I metal pinned the feet, but I didn't metal pin the weapon on because it did stick. So I will have to pin it.
So I learned a really cool technique from a guy before I show mine off for gluing things together. Tearing a little piece of tissue paper or your napkin and putting it in the joint and then gluing, it adds a fiber to it to help keep tiny joints together.
Ooh.
One of the most genius things I've ever learned from a guy. Works great. All right, so I'm gonna go to full cam here.
Yep.
All right, so I moved the light over so you can see a little better. Let me move. I'll just move the camera for you. And back this way. There we go. All right, so I did some highlighting. So top down, these are my greens, all my highlights. You can see I highlighted, that might be a little too bright actually. I highlighted his face. I did the blue blades, like the classic glow.
Oh,
I started
nice.
doing all the wet blending. That's what we were doing for that, and I stopped. And then my cloak, I did the brown. I added some black wash through the edges to kind of make it look like it's dirty from being in the mud. This would get carried up and through. I did the green armor.
Looks lovely.
Yeah, I love how that turned out. And this is all from that auto shading from doing the Zenith two-tone. Like it just, I cheated, cheated.
Yeah.
That was an ERIK quote. You can't see it.
Improvise.
The weapons are the new scale 75 color that I did, which is the Amber Alchemy.
Yep.
That is what the base tone is for that, with one wash over it. I did little yellow dots for all the gems. I was going to do like an orange to yellow buildup, so you can kind of see it. I don't know why this is not as clear as I'd like it to be. And then I did the same thing.
On your squares on your mouth, I think.
No, there's no autofocus on the Elgatos. They are a manual focus. So it's just not there. Let me try zooming in a little bit for y'all. That's a little better. So there's a little yellow dot in those. Same on the back of it here. I was going to do a sunburst style for them. And then I did green highlights and bright highlights for all the face. And then the eyes, I started going in and doing a bright flare. I was going to do a green glow over the whole face from the mask. And that's what I had stopped doing. Got your tones for the abs, 2 different colors of washes and some wet blending. And then I was going to go through and highlight our loincloth and stuff, but this is where I stopped. And I washed my base too, look.
Very nice.
I almost want him to be on like broken marble steps. I think I would go back through
Ooh,
and do porcelain crack
really
techniques for
nice.
this.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to keep it in focus for you here.
Very nice work, gentlemen.
I like
Okay.
that cloak. That cloak's got texture.
That
as well,
colour on
which
the
is
cloak
good.
is just lovely.
Yeah. I wish I did brown now. I think both Eric and Steve, the cloaks are yeah, they look much better. I think my dark blue is just too dark.
But they take that dark blue and then fade a color into it that's going to work. Just
Yeah.
work it down. Maybe a white, or you could do a lighter blue, or you could even move it to a purple tone if you wanted.
That's true. Yeah. So there we go. If you switch to your full face cam, Eric,
I wonder if this will look better on
we
full.
now have an opportunity.
Try this one. Maybe
So,
this will look better.
as seen in last week's brush off, we have upgraded our systems. We now have
Oh.
special effects involved here.
Oh.
We still don't yet have a drum roll because I need two hands to do a drum roll properly. In the meantime, the star has started spinning. The star is going round and round and round and round. Where it stops, only Benjamin knows. So, Ben, it's over to you. Who has won this week's coveted gold star? Is it me? Is it Steve? Is it Eric?
I think the coveted gold star has to go to Dave. Because the man has only been painting for 40 hours. He's used advanced techniques.
He has.
Tried to use gloss as well. I think the man deserves a gold star simply for that fact alone.
Dave, it's your only gold star for the year.
It will be.
The benevolence of this judge.
The first one is mine.
He jumped straight in. He said, no, I've only been painting for 40 hours. I'm using all the techniques. I'm going to give him a go.
Yeah.
And that deserves credit.
It does.
It does. Thank you very much. That is great.
Three really unique different paint jobs. They all look great. And there's different parts of each that are just lovely.
Cool.
Now I have to finish this model and post it.
You definitely have to finish that model.
Stick it on socials. You know what to do.
Yeah, I'm used to it. Did we do elementals last time I was here? I think we did. Hold on.
I think it was
You
the
did.
elementals. Yeah.
Yes, you did the air elemental with the lightning effect. Running
Yeah.
through it.
That
I think it was this
wicked.
one. This was all. Yeah. It was this one?
Yeah. Switch your cameras over. There we go. Yeah.
Those are washes.
Yeah, nice.
I remember him, and then the lightning air elemental.
Yeah.
That's the
That
one.
was just amazing.
I remember this. I remember that. I was like, I feel like I painted elementals last time I was here.
The key question is, did you enjoy painting Lazarus?
I do. So on like a pro level, what I do like is there's a lot of detail in the pauldrons and in the bracers that I would like to bring out. I'd have to get a magnifying glass, but I would definitely paint those in and hit some of those highlights with a good brush.
Mm-hmm.
I would go through and do oils for the weapons. I like that the weapons have detail, that they're not just a static piece of metal.
Mhm.
And then I gotta say, the robes and cloak, bravo, because the only time I think that 40K, which is kind of like the big one people compare to, their Dark Elves had some really good cloaks back in the day. And you guys kind of nailed movement in the cloak along with the direction of the spear for this. So I love painting this, and I want to do a marble, like a broken marble base,
Yeah.
which
I'd
means I
love
have to go
to
back
see
through
that.
and paint this white.
Yeah, we'd love to see that. When you get time, we'd love to see you finish it.
Oh, I think he will get finished because I want to finish it now, and I'll make a character to play him as. So
Oh, perfect.
it comes down to, when does Eric have downtime? I have 4 new shows I'm launching next month.
You need to switch your cameras over. There you go.
I did. I switched back. I just wanted to point out what I was talking about. But yeah, the model is great. I'd love to do that bigger one I saw on screen earlier. And
Yeah.
honestly, the logo for your company, do you guys have a sculpt of that?
Not yet. It's something in the works.
Because I would love to paint that for a sculpt,
Okay.
like a wall sculpt, like a big one. That'd be awesome.
Yep. Mental No Mate. I'll give you a shout when it's available.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
Right, there we have it, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. That is the Great British Brush Off. This is the first of our Cerberus series, where we've been painting or learning how to paint Lazarus. And we will see you again soon. But until then, it's goodbye. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Congratulations, Dave. Thank you.
You guys in 3
Nice to meet you,
hours.
Eric.
You too, buddy.
See you soon.